Hi guys, Louis Dangoor here from WrestleTalk.com and Wrestling Daily, and I'm joined here by EC3. And I normally like to leave a bit of a gap between when I interview someone the first time and then when I interview them again. But EC3's done a lot since I last spoke to him. So I thought it was one of my final interviews of 2020. Who better to speak to than him? So EC3, how you doing? How are you holding up?
I am excellent. I am in the midst of a quarantine, but I'm doing okay. Thank you very much. And it's so funny. So much has happened since we last talked, but it feels like we just talked yesterday. You know, you quickly, I don't know if I told you this privately, but you quickly ranked high on journalists with integrity that I trust to talk to and aren't lying pieces of shit. So congratulations on making the list. I very much enjoyed our first conversation. Yeah.
It normally takes people a long while. So it normally takes people a long while to realize I'm not a lying piece of shit. So I appreciate you realizing that early on. But yeah, how I know you
developed this intuition. Sorry, I developed this intuition to judge character because I've been wrong so many times in the past, and like eventually you learn through mistakes, and your character is fine. Now, please continue. Let you control the narrative of this interview.
Well, you mentioned you were in quarantine at the moment. So how are you holding up with everything? I know you announced or sort of said to Chris Van Vliet during your interview with him that you had tested positive, obviously, for COVID. How are you holding up with everything, and how are you finding it?
I mean, I'm definitely doing fine. I'm a very healthy individual. I take a lot of vitamin D3, a lot of vitamin C, a lot of zinc, a lot of glutamine, and that's also the cocktail I've been using to counterbalance the coronavirus. So if you want to know that, I think I put out my Instagram story. I'm also not a doctor, so don't trust me at all. But I'm healthy. A lot of people have had it a lot worse than me. So thank you for the well wishes and things like that, but send those to the people that truly need it. Anyone who's lost a family member, any person who has autoimmune disease, anybody that's like truly affected by what this could do to you, small businesses, stuff like that, send all your love and care to them because I'm good and I appreciate the concern, but definitely good. And I'm quarantined, so I'm alone. And I began writing. So I think I wrote the first thing for my little website, www.freeec3.com, talking about, hey, I have corona or COVID. I'm fine, but here's what I think I'm going to do. So over the next time within this quarantine, I'm going to kind of write about 2020, the narrative extended, which is now available on Amazon Prime in the UK. So check that out. But kind of just scribe my thoughts on the year from a professional and personal level. If people want to read it, cool. If you don't, I don't care. It'll be there. But the thing about writing is you just have to do it. And then if it finds an audience, it does. If it doesn't, hey, you got your thoughts down, you're not going to lose your mind. But I need something to do. I'm quarantined, and I'm very much a go-getter. So
exactly. And I mean, you spoke about when you're writing, you're going to be talking about 2020, how that was for you professionally and personally. In a short little sort of, I guess, teaser for that, how has 2020 been for you personally and professionally in a sentence, say? Because it has been eventful for you. I mean, you've WWE, you're obviously getting released in the middle of the pandemic, moving to doing stuff with Impact, ending the year with Ring of Honor, which unfortunately we're not going to see you and Jay Briscoe at Final Battle. But how has 2020 been for you?
You know, for every occurrence and everything that has happened, it could have been the proverbial, and some people paint it as the worst year ever. It definitely could have been a terrible year for me. I mean, I lost allegedly my dream job during a pandemic. I got shut out of the world, dealt with personal issues and professional and all that. But it was an awesome year because it was a year that when the circumstances were at their worst, I made the most out of them and I came out better on the other side. So I think there's two ways to look at the pandemic and 2020 as a whole. One way is to stay stagnant, be a victim, complain about it, or come out better, do something with that time. And so I'm definitely the latter, to hopefully do things, develop hopefully a unique, interesting character for the wrestling world that's kind of been on the forefront of my mind for a long time. experienced 3 different wrestling promotions through pandemic times. That's pretty interesting. Been able to counterbalance 2 at the same time, which, you know, kind of went under the radar. That's, who does that? Nobody else has done that, right? Am I? Recently? I don't think so. But yeah, you're the man, EC3. I know, thanks. And just be able to transform myself mentally, mentally, emotionally, physically into who I think I want to be. So it's been a good year.
And
chaos, but a good year.
It has been chaos. And as we head into 2021, what are some things on your bucket list? I'm sure being able to wrestle Jay Briscoe and do some stuff with Ring of Honor must be pretty high up there based on the fact that we unfortunately couldn't see that in 2020. But what are some of the other stuff you want to sort of get ticked off a bucket list or accomplish in 2021?
That is a great question. And definitely I wanted to cap 2020 with that match with Jay Briscoe because I mean, that's something I've been looking forward to for a very long time, and he's a tremendous talent, and I think the perfect catalyst for what the essential character will become, and Ring of Honor makes it the perfect form. The freedom to be able to explore what I want to do under a great promotion and a great banner with amazing talent like Jay Briscoe, and I want to collect his scalp, like I said in my little blog. Like, I mean, that would be awesome too. So not being able to have that 2020 sucks, but at the same time, do I take it as a negative or do I take it as a positive? Do I end 2020 with something I really want to do, or do I start 2021 off with something I really want to do? So Jay Briscoe, it won't be final battle, but it may be his final battle. Damn, I'm good. Second, what else do we have going on? Expand the narrative. So we created this kind of interesting little subculture, sub-content place for pro wrestling that I kind of developed this character in. I kind of want to expand on that. Now, I've created this with my partner, Jedediah. We have a great cinematographer named Manuel, and then a great musician named Tom Schaffner, where we kind of put together cinematic stuff for wrestling, but I think cinematic matches are dead because wrestling has a tendency to, hey, when something's cool and unique, let's do it as much as possible till everyone hates it. So we've kind of kept our style our own. Hopefully we can expand on it. People are interested on it. Check it, the narrative on Amazon Prime in the UK. If you could, tell me what you think. Leave a review. Make it 5 stars, even if you hate it. Thanks. Appreciate it. So expanding on that and kind of incorporating new people into it. Some of you may know, some of you may not. Some of you may really know. There's a lot of talks going on. So it could be cool. It could be a unique art project that maybe 5% of people see and enjoy, or it could be huge. I don't know. But the fact we're going to do it, that's exciting. What else? Continue with Ring of Honor. Seeing where that takes me, seeing what else is out there in 2021, always keeping it innocuous. If I ever post anything on Instagram, I mean, 90% of my comments are go to AEW. I mean, like, have some originality, people. Comment on the actual content, but is that on the option? I don't know. Who's to say? From there, personally, I'm going to launch a supplement company. I think by the time this interview airs, it may have launched. It's called Absolute Subs. That's pretty sweet. So getting kind of outside of the wrestling bubble, launching a fitness app that people can train via the narrative. A lot of, I don't know, throwing a bunch of shit against the wall. We'll see what sticks. How about
that? That's what you got to do. You got to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
Oh God, well, I'm busy. It's funny, I'm so busy and I have no idea what I'm doing at any of it. Like, everything's chaos.
That's how the world works nowadays. No one knows what they're doing, but we're all incredibly busy. Nope. But for you, 2020 and 2021, it's got to be exciting. And your website, Free EC3, like, you are free. I know that people say, "Oh, you're with Ring of Honor, you're with Impact." Like, you're not. You're just working with them. You are like a free entity, and I guess that must be so appealing for you when, for years, you were with WWE, not really doing anything, not really being used to your full potential. So is that something that, coming out of WWE, you sort of said to yourself, I'm not going to sign an exclusive deal with anyone, regardless of, I guess, how good it is, what they offer me. I just want to be able to do anything that I want to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think, too, the fact that the world was, when we came out of WWE, nobody knew what was happening. So it provided the opportunity to be able to explore being free and doing different things And I'm very fortunate all the companies I've dabbled with were cool with that, because they also didn't know why tie yourself up long term with the talent if we don't know if we're going to have shows in a month. We don't know if everything's going to blow up. We don't know. So I think it provided an interesting dynamic to take advantage of. I thought there would be more clarity coming into 2021. Maybe there is, maybe it'll all switch. I don't know if you're familiar with the age of Pisces ending December 21st. Do you know this? It is,
No.
with the age of Aquarius, it's weird. Monday might be a weird day, or nothing will happen. I don't know. Check it out. But going into that, being fortunate enough to have these companies allow this to take place, and it provided just what I really needed, was some creative outlet. So I can only create so much on my own. My platform's only so big to have the platform of an Impact behind it, or the platform of a Ring of Honor behind it. That brings it to so many more eyes, ears, televisions, screens, whatever. So definitely fortunate, definitely free, and their willingness to work, not with what I've done in the past, because I hate the past. I'm sick of the past. We in wrestling focus on the past too much. Wrestling people, wrestling fans especially, claim they want something new. But the second something from the past comes up, they love it. Like, I don't know if you notice that. It's like, whatever. I'm like, stop being tied to the past so much. Let's see what the future holds. So
well, actually,
going into 20.
While you mentioned that, I'm gonna speak a little bit later about your old, obviously Ethan Carter the third character, because I know when you were released, a lot of people were like, "Oh, that worked so well. He should just go back and revert to that in Impact."
Yeah.
So, was that a temptation? Was there any part of you that like, listen, that worked so well, it got so over, like you were incredibly over when it was obviously TNA. Was there any part of you that was like, I could do that, or are you so against going to the past that you were like, you know what, let's just focus on the future, create new stuff, do more creative things that aren't anything that I have done before?
Yeah, I mean, from a character perspective, let's talk continuity. Okay. Yeah, the temptation was there, but the temptation was, this is the easy thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I could fall into it, and it's complacent, but it works. Trust me, nobody thinks the top 1%, Ethan Carter III, EC3, Trouble, all that has miles upon miles and multiple new feuds that could explore and crazy potential. Like, I don't even think I touched the surface of what I could do there, but let's look at it realistically. The top 1% goes to WWE, gets destroyed, sucks, horrible experience, knocked loopy, concussed, gone for months, fired during a pandemic. What in the character continuity reality would this man, who's so proudful, so arrogant, so boastful, so jacked, so tan, act like nothing happened? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Like, a lot happened, and a lot of it was insulting and embarrassing and devastating to the psyche of somebody who is so proud and put himself on such a pedestal. So I think I had to do something different from a stupid, idiotic, creative perspective that maybe only I realize and a handful of others. Or maybe it's broad appeal, maybe it subconsciously sticks within wrestling fans. I don't know, but I felt it had to be something different. And this is an idea. It's kind of evolved beyond anything I originally thought. Oh, Rockstar Spud just texted me. It evolved beyond anything I ever thought it would, but my initial idea for this came in around my NXT time after I got concussed with Dream at NXT Brooklyn, I believe, TakeOver Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Like, this idea, and I pitched it real hard to NXT, and they're like, stick with what you're doing. Okay. Then you're called up. I am? Okay. And so, like, I had this idea, the basis of it, but then when the pandemic hit and I was going to possibly come back to WWE from the other concussion, I was like, I'm not coming back the same, whether they like it or not. So I started doing this on my own, but I got fired instead, so it worked out.
Yeah, and I mean, that call-up was weird. It was sort of like, it felt like ratings were low. They crapped the bed and were at work. Let's just send some people up. And that's not to take away from you or your work, because, I mean, if you when you re-signed to WWE, you could have easily walked straight onto the main roster anyway, because I mean, you had the look, the mic skills, everything like that. It just felt like the way they did it when they just announced it, and it wasn't like a debut. It was just like, oh, this person's coming to WWE. It felt weird, and you must have shared in those assessments. Were you happy when you got the word that you were getting called up, or would you have almost rather stayed in NXT?
I would have rather stayed 100% because I felt unfinished there, even if it meant not nearly as much money at the time, just because I wanted to be fulfilled. So there's a lot to do there. But at the same time, you've been waiting your whole life for that call, in theory. It was weird, though, because I was out injured with a concussion, and I got called up, and I'm like, are you sure? You guys sure about this? Should we call somebody else? Because I don't know, get myself cleared, because I think this is a moment with purpose. Like, they have a reason to do it. But like you said, it was weird, and maybe their version of throwing shit against the wall to see what sticks. It never felt right. Like, I thought getting the call, I would have like a moment of accomplishment, and maybe I can remember this moment and put on the right song, and I can really feel it. Like, all right, you did job well done. You know, you did it. Good for you. Now what's next? Let's go. But then I tried, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, it doesn't feel right. Never did. Never will. It sucked, but I move on.
Exactly. And I do want to move on talking about what you've got going on and what you've done recently. So the narrative.
I don't mind talking about the past with you. I don't mind talking about the past.
Yeah, but the thing is, because what you're doing now is so different to what you're doing, to what you did do. I think it's important to know that, obviously, this might just be my perspective, but a lot of what you went through in WWE probably shaped the character that you are and the character that you portray now. Because obviously that experience can't have been great. You were on top of the world in TNA, rejoined, nothing, and then moved out. So in terms of the narrative, for those that aren't familiar, sort of give us a summary of what it is, what you stand for, what the idea behind the narrative is, and what you're trying to do now that you are you're free in your own entity.
Yeah. The narrative itself it's control your narrative, which I look at as tell your story. There was a time within WWE that no matter what I wanted to do, 17 different people are writing, 18 people are manipulating, and 19 people are twisting this around, and only one person's opinion matters, and then he changes it anyways. So it's like, you never get to tell your story. Yeah. You don't control your narrative. So that was just the ability to find that. I think in reality, people have been controlled their whole lives. They're controlled by, I usually point out the big five, like it's media, politicians, corporations, possibly religion, and like personal love. Like, never in that control do you find yourself within it. So like taking back control and maybe not listening, not standing for something, not allowing things to happen to you, even just by the mental clarity to ignore the noise, control. Fighting for freedom, the freedom to act, the freedom to think, the freedom to speak, the freedom to feel. I feel like people are afraid to be themselves. They're afraid to find who they truly are by being free. And like, I may have an opinion. I may say it right here, right now. And I may be slandered, berated, beaten down for it. But why? That's my opinion. Am I not entitled to it? And you're entitled to yours. You could say what you want about my opinion, because that's what makes life great, is conversations, agreements, disagreements, finding common ground, finding purpose together, which is the final thing. Purpose. What is your purpose in life? Finding a purpose to live. Like, what was the purpose to get involved in wrestling? I lost sight of that a long time ago, starting it in a dingy used car garage, crap 15 by 15 ring with duct tape all over it, walking into day one of training, like looking around like, what am I doing here? Handing thousands of dollars over to some scumbag little thief, probably, walking into the bathroom of my training academy, and there's just a giant turd in the toilet. And I'm like, I just signed up for this. What is going on? But like, why did I start it? Because of a love and a passion, finding purpose in what I do. And then the purpose has changed a lot. But as far as anybody within controlling their narrative, finding your purpose, what makes you happy, would be big. So that's the narrative in itself. As far as a outlet, I mean, like, what better way to find yourself than through the art of physical combat, fighting? When the time we filmed it, shows were seemingly illegal. It was, you couldn't have a show. So it was kind of this, dare I say, underground fight world that we filmed cinematically differently. And that was wrestling based. Like, I didn't want a cinematic wrestling match that's going to be, as much as I love some of the stuff that's been done and creative that's been done with it, I didn't want special powers and transformations and like goofy shit. Like, I wanted the wrestling to be as real as possible, gritty, nasty, even ugly, whatever, within that, because that is what true combat is. That is what true fighting is. So to put that in a wrestling world, this, dare I say, underground, was just kind of the basis that you're fighting an opponent, yes, but more so you're fighting your past, finding your purpose within the realm of fighting.
And I mean,
if any of that made sense, that was a word vomit salad.
But I think that even if it doesn't make sense, that's kind of the appeal of it, because it is so ambiguous, and I guess it can mean what you want it to mean.
That too, yes, very much.
And I guess
I like that too.
You can steal it. I'll take 10% commission. But it's
there's no money in the narrative, dude.
I guess part of what you're doing feels very much like you've taken a lot of inspiration probably from film, TV. It seems like it's unlike any of the other cinematic stuff we've seen. I know you mentioned that you liked some of it, but it doesn't feel like a cinematic wrestling match. It feels more like a film that has combat fighting in it. So what are some of the inspirations, I guess, you've taken from film, from TV, from sort of pop culture, if you have, that you've implemented into the narrative and tried to take some little pointers here, pointers there from?
The innocuousness you mentioned is big. The ambiguity. Like, I like movies, like hypothetically American Psycho, where it ends and they don't tell you what happened. You kind of have to decide for yourself. I think that's cool. So I'm glad you brought that up. Obviously, Fight Club is super inspiring for it. The book and the film, but like my partner and I have always been big fans of it. Love Chuck Palahniuk. I don't even know how to say his name right. His work and his like gritty style and like exposition on life is very cool. So bringing that to life, it's sort of an influence, but I think we've gotten far enough away where we're not directly ripping off of it, you know, like an underground would, hypothetically. The actual shooting of it would be, I was really into, we're self-financing this, so we don't have, first off, we're amateurs. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. We got a cinematographer who's from Chile. He doesn't speak English, but he's amazing at what he does. How can we make this different but cool, but like it could have mistakes and we're not at fault for them? And then I was kind of watching Creed, and you know how they do the one take entrance walk, one take fight, where I was like, we could do that for sure. And then if I T-bone suplex somebody into the camera, who cares? It's cool. Like, it might be cool. And then I think it doesn't take you out of the moment switching shots. The second you switch a bunch of shots, it becomes standard television corporate wrestling, I think. So keeping it as a one-shot kind of deal. And like, the cameraman exists in reality. He's documenting the narrative. So if he's involved, he gets hit. Whoops. Oh, well, like, he's in the danger zone. So I guess those will be three influences that are pretty cool. And then sort of like music videos would be another one.
Yeah.
So like, we created the theme song that I wanted to use going forward, but why not shoot it like a music video? So that was the whole purpose of the original narrative that we extended upon with all the additional footage we shot. But like, how can I sell an entrance video, sell it like a music video with the walk and all that cool stuff, and then the second the song ends, the fight begins. Music videos, no one's exploiting that anymore. Music videos a lost art, remember? No, you don't. You're a kid. Back in the day, we had TV channels with music videos on them. They were crazy awesome. TRL, it was the best. Limp Bizkit and Britney Spears battling for the top spot.
You're speaking another language to me. I have no clue what you're talking about. But and you mentioned some of the cinematic matches that you have liked. What are some of them that, or aspects of them that have happened in wrestling? Do you think, that was cool?
I think Taker and AJ was awesome because it gave you everything you wanted to see. It had a little camp, it had a little pop in circumstances. It was sort of not real, but at the same time real enough that you could suspend disbelief enough. It's perfect send-off for Taker. AJ is the smarmy heel getting, like, I thought that was really good. And then the next night it was Cena and Bray Wyatt, which I thought was complete mind trip, like mental, what the, and I was just like, the fact you did that was so creative and so awesome, and it actually happened. I mean, I don't know what happened, but the fact it did happen, I respect that. So that was pretty cool. Originally, the Hardys, especially Matt with the Broken Universe, was the initial thing, especially when Jeremy and Jimmy produced it back in TNA, the forefathers of this thing, so to speak. So those were all cool. I really like the one we did in Impact with Moose, but I did one with him prior that I was going to release, but then they made the decision to make our Bound for Glory match cinematic, so we did one under their terms. It was cool, but the fact I had one already, I was like, oh, let's see what the difference is. But I was very happy with being able to tell that story and making Moose come out of his shell and become the man he's supposed to be. Whether he adheres to that or not, we'll see. But I've always seen great potential in him. So those are a couple, and I'm missing one. The Stampede at AEW was just, it was 45 minutes of entertainment. I loved it. It was very enjoyable, and again had all the camp and like the nods to the fans. It was created for us as fans to enjoy. So you turn to that on for somebody that maybe never saw wrestling and be like, what are you watching? Why is this guy getting Northern Lights suplex across a football field? I don't get it. But if you get it, you love it, and it's cool. So those are a few.
And you mentioned Moose there, someone that obviously you worked with when you did your stuff with Impact earlier in the year. Was it your decision to work with him? Was it something that was suggested? Because, I mean, it seemed like you guys, the story really worked itself out and just seemed like you two were the perfect match for each other, and the cinematic nature of it and everything just worked with you and him together. Was that your call, or was that something that was pitched to you?
When I was coming back there, that was definitely something I suggested to be the arc of my return. And then because we knew we were only going to go to Bound for Glory, like, we can leave it open-ended and ambiguous on what I do in the future when the world sorts itself out. So definitely the Moose thing came about. Ironically enough, he came into my lair, my shop, www.justifiedprints.com, which is also subbing as our studio where we shoot our content. I have made a gray wall semi-famous on social media.
Yeah, the famous gray wall.
He wanted to do a promo against it, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to have you come by, have my buddy produce it, because I know his potential. And it was about when that hooded figure was coming back to Impact Wrestling, who's it going to be? And he wanted to do a promo for his own sake, talking about that. And he's doing his promo, and he's it's a wrestling promo. It's okay. He's going through names, EY, Sting, and like, he's just kind of going through them. But then he brought me up. And there was kind of like a switch in him. And like, there was something coming from inside him, from his heart, of like, who I saw who he truly was. And like, he was finally breaking the shell of who he thought he should be and who he actually is. And it came out when he started talking about me. And I was very interested, and I'm like, you know what? If I can do all this stuff for myself, maybe I can use it to help somebody else and create somebody else, or send them on their way, make them slightly better. So it's kind of an experiment to see if that would work. And then pitching that to Impact, and they were down with it. I wrote a way too many worded story arc of what I saw happening. They liked it, and we kind of ran with it. So, yeah, I definitely came back for him.
And I know that
because I see so much. I see so much in him because he's legit, and I see so few legitimate people that I wouldn't ever want to fight in real life, who might not get the respect they deserve from a desensitized wrestling fan base. Like, this guy is like, when he was punching me and just pummeling me, and I'm taking it, I'm like, my God, I would never fight you ever for real. This sucks. You know what I mean? So somebody with some intimidation behind him, somebody real, somebody legit, and I think he's that guy.
And obviously, without giving too much away for the future, who are some other people that you'd like to work with? I know you saw a lot of Moose and wanted to work with him. Who are some other people that you see, all right, you've got potential, and I think I could help unlock you? Because your stuff with Moose, I think that obviously when people see, oh, he's coming into a new, like, the company again, he's going to win his first match. But this one felt more like, okay, you're coming in to unlock Moose's potential. So who are some other people that you think, all right, you've got potential, and I think I could help you unlock it and get to the next level?
Anybody willing to learn how to control their narrative, first off. And the thing with Moose too, it's a two-pronged attack. One, unleash him, make him become who he's supposed to be. But then two, give Ethan Carter the third, let him die. Let him die at the hands of somebody. Sacrifice himself so he can finally be free of his past, was kind of the two-pronged attack to that. But Jay Briscoe, like, even if we start in January, I think we can tell a very long, prolonged, attempted, intricate tale with him for sure. So that's definitely, when that was brought to my attention with Ring of Honor, I was very like, that. We think we want to work with Jay Briscoe. I'm like, yes, that's exactly who I want to do this with. He's perfect. That would be amazing. And hopefully it will be. Started good. COVID kind of hit it. I like Alex Hammerstone, maybe, off the top of my head, would be interesting. I follow him on social media and met him a couple times, and he's a shit ton of potential. If I was going to look at the AEW roster, I mean, MJF, obviously, because he was what EC3 was. Like, there's a great story there. Moxley, for sure, because I think we're tied together just based on him on his way out of WWE, me on my way in, and how it all went to shit afterwards. Like, a deranged psycho boy EC3 could totally pin all the blame on him, possibly, and he can wind up rolling around in glass and barbed wire and death match. Like, anything could happen. It could be good. If I look at the Impact, I don't know, beating the hell out of the Karate Man, Ethan Page, really intrigues me. I don't know if he can handle the narrative, but I would see it through. I don't know. Who do you think? Those are just off the top of my head, because I did not prep myself for that.
I mean, MJF works so well, I think, because as you said, it's like what you were, and you could, I guess, try and show him the light that, I don't know, you could paint it as in Ethan Carter III is dead and he's basically reliving that, and you just think you need to show him the light.
Fighting myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that
myself too. Yeah.
That's why the Moxley one that you mentioned and the MJF one, the story's there and it makes sense. I feel in wrestling now, things are so right. Okay, these two are good. Let's just book them in a feud together and then we'll work out the story, as opposed to the story being there and then you making it work around that. I think it now, just in wrestling, a lot of feuds just have no story. It's like this person beat this person, so they're now gonna feud with each other for 12 years.
They're gonna have 17 matches and then the payoff. Yeah, and I think fans realize that subconsciously or consciously. It's like stuff that's based in semblance of reality that they can really latch onto. Is I always see this business as it's about emotion and it's about moments. Like, the moves are tools we use to get to these. Promos are tools we use to get to these, but it's about emotions and moments. And the only emotions that really bring out moments are emotions that are real inside everybody that they can resonate with. So Yeah, I think story is real important. We're storytellers. I believe the leader of this industry said that once. We're making movies, pal. Are we? Or are we just kind of like throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks? I don't know. I would like to make movies too. I'd like to make movies that are good. Let's say that much.
Well, on that note, are you interested in potentially branching out, not into making movies, but being involved in movies and branching into that side of things? Of sort of, I know you are sort of doing the more sort of filming side of things, but that's still in the wrestling bubble. Would you like to
Yes.
potentially branch out and do some more mainstream acting and mainstream sort of films and movies and
I
TV?
think I have a guy who's looking, and the two things I was able to do. One because of COVID, and I couldn't even get out of the couch to film it in time, but that's okay. But definitely, there's interest. I actually did a movie once. I believe it's called Beast of the Water, and I think it might be on Netflix. And I still have not watched it. It also stars Tyrus. uh, but that was my first foray into acting. But it was basically EC3 playing a military tough guy. So I don't know. I'm like super hesitant because I don't want to just sit there and like be like, oh my god, I suck so bad. But it was my first foray into it, so I had to do it. I should probably watch it. But yeah, I'm definitely interested. I think I could be a decent B level actor because I'm really good at playing extensions of myself, but I'm not going to be Daniel Day Lewis able to transform myself into Abraham Lincoln and then like Will Cutting. I'm not going to be that good. Let's be honest. But I could be like the guy who like, hey, don't touch her. And gets his ass kicked or kicks his ass. Like no sweat. Yeah, easy. But
And
yeah, that's definitely it has some interest.
yeah, because you've been so generous with your time, so I do appreciate that. But before we let you go, can we do some quick fire questions?
Shoot him, baby.
Okay. So I was just watching your interview with Chris Van Vliet. You are 213
That was a good
pounds
one.
of pounds. Very good one. Not as good as this one, but it's good.
Yeah.
You're
No, this one's really good
213
too.
pounds.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe that.
What do you think I weigh?
I've been told by my mum never to answer that question.
I am not a. I don't. I will not be offended. I will not be offended.
I mean, I would have
But
said
then,
closer to 250 than 213.
yeah. Here's two things. First off, I'm really, really lean. And the second thing is, when I was 3 years old, I had surgeries on my stomach and my intestines. So there's like some internal organs removed. And I wonder, though I have the muscle of a 220-pound person, am I missing actual LBs because of stuff taken out of me? I
Potentially.
don't know. It baffles me too that I look heavier than I am, but at the same time, I'm probably 215 right now because I had 6 rolls of sushi last night and a bowl of cereal. So yeah,
I mean, if you lose
but
about
yeah,
10
believe it,
pounds,
man.
you're 205 live ready.
Right? There was a time during the pandemic I weighed myself and I was 204 and I was like, oh, I mean, I looked shredded, maybe not as bulky and intimidating, but I was like, damn, I'm lean. That's so God. This is I don't know what I'm doing. I
Perfect.
don't know. I like to if I got to pop my shirt off and show off my abs, I got to. Like, come on, I'm a body guy, bro.
Nothing wrong with that. So if you had to retire tomorrow for some reason, would you be
I
content with
have
what you've done in wrestling?
I could be, maybe I should be, but by no means would I be. Absolutely not. Too much to do, too much I don't feel happy with at all. So no.
And
But
if
in
go
theory,
on.
could I be? Yeah. No, just in
And if
theory.
yeah, and if you had to go to someone tomorrow and say, right, I'm trying to sell you EC3. This is what EC3 is. What would you show them to be like, all right, this is my proudest moment, my best moment. This is what's going to sell you to me. What are you most proud of when you look back on your career, and sort of what stage of your career is that at?
How much time do I have to sell it?
You've got 90 seconds.
Shit.
Mm.
it would have to be montage format.
Yeah.
And it would probably start at the inception of EC3, and it would be set to sweet music, but it would kind of progress from a spoiled, entitled little bratty kid who kind of learned how to fight, who became like tough and resilient, who actually conquered an unspeakable challenge, to reign heavily but give so much of himself that that moment on top was so important to him, he sacrificed everything else. He loses that moment. He has a tough time finding it back. It really gets taken away from him. He feels that the reason it's taken away from him is because he didn't succeed elsewhere. He goes back to where he came from, only to have high moments that are quickly dropped to the absolute lowest moment of his entire existence, only to then find himself looking at a harsh new world, ruined atmosphere, apocalyptic landscape. He shaves his head, kind of like Natalie Portman in V for Vendetta, and he walks into the streets, jacked in jeans, shirtless, covered in grime, soot, dirt, and dust, into the unknown.
Sounds good to me. Would the middle part of that be you as a mute?
There would be 1.7 seconds of me as a mute. It would just be, it would be that one clip with where I'm about to talk and Moxley just bashes the microphone. And I'm like, come on.
So you mentioned Moxley there earlier. Why do you think you two are so linked up together? Do you think that you're obviously because for some reason when they paired you two together when he was obviously on his way out of the company and it had been revealed, and obviously they were trying to push you as the babyface, but everyone was cheering him because he was the guy that said no to WWE and was leaving. So do you think that it was like doomed? Did you know going into it that it was like, no, this isn't going to work?
No, I thought with some foresight and creativity, it could easily have been, I could have been catastrophically launched into the person I should have been as like kind of a smarmy prick heel based on the rightful love and adulation of the fans. I've watched this guy for 7 years work on top of the company and go through thick and thin, becoming the resilient, person that he is. So with some foresight, it could have been great, but everything changes like that. Nothing matters ever. It all sucks. There's no narrative. There's some to an extent. But why do I bring him up? I don't know. I feel, I don't want to say I feel tied to him. I respect him so much in his work and his ethic and what he's been through in life to get to where he was and what he's done with it and who he is. And we're very different people, but with very like-minded goals. And I think those are the guys I work the best with. Somebody that I'm not going to be best pals with, trading memes on IG with, but like I respect the hell out of, and whose work I respect, and who puts all of himself into what he does, and I do the same. And there's that kind of yin and yang. The universe is about balance, right? So it's almost like we balance each other out in different ways, I think. Or we haven't really ever had the chance, but I think definitely that's something I'd like to explore.
So if you had the book to wrestle, to work with anyone from anywhere, would it be him?
Anyone from, well, I still know Cena probably would be my top pick because that's another guy. But, he's making real movies now, so that's cool. But
all right for some.
no, just with him, I see like a lot of similarities with him and me, and then there's differences. I kind of got to know him personally a little bit, but at the same time, he was kind of on that bubble at one point, but then it all switched for him, and he took off to become one of the biggest names of all time, where I was on that bubble too, but it didn't turn for me, and I catastrophically got shit out. So there's a great story there that's real and resonates, like what could have been if these roles were reversed in a different time, whatever. That's something I like to explore. Do I want him in the narrative? Yeah, I want him in the narrative.
Of course you do. You want to get that money, and having Cena would help.
There is no money in the narrative, but there might be with him.
All right, EC3, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. We obviously hope that with everything going on, you're doing happy and healthy, and we'll hopefully catch up again soon, potentially after you take a bit of Jay Briscoe's skull in Ring of Honor, whenever that is.
That sounds promising. I'd like to send my best to everybody in the UK. Hang in there. I know it's tough, but you're resilient people. You haven't seen the sun in 400 years, so you can get through this. You can get through anything, right? No, I have great respect for the sovereign. So take care of yourselves, and I appreciate the interview, and I'm sure we'll do it again.
Let's do it again. Perfect. See you guys.